Hi, everyone. Thanks for hopping on a couple minutes early. We'll give everyone about 30 seconds or so to join us, and we'll get started in just a second. All right, it's looking like we're having a lot of people join, so we'll go ahead and get started and kick things off. We've got limited time and a lot to cover. So I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this Ask the Experts webinar. I'm Allison Phillips, Director of Marketing on Cox Media's corporate team, and I'll be your host today. Some quick housekeeping items before I introduce our guest expert. This presentation is being recorded. You'll receive an email with the recording so you can watch it again at your convenience or share it with your teams. We have about 20 minutes of great content for you and 10 minutes or so set aside for Q&A. If at any time during the presentation you do have a question, go ahead and type it into the question box on your screen, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the call. So now that that's out of the way, I'm so excited to introduce you to today's guest expert, Corey Elliott. Corey is the EVP of Local Market Intelligence at Borrell Associates, an advertising and market research firm that has pioneered a methodology for collecting and analyzing data on how local businesses spend their marketing budgets. Our teams here at Cox Media rely on our partners at Borrell for many of the insights that help us build strategic campaigns alongside our clients and our agency partners. Corey is truly an expert on local advertising. He leads Borrell's ongoing surveys of local marketers, the largest survey of SMBs in the US, as well as the company's expansive database of local advertising and marketing expenditures. He's the co-host of the Local Marketing Trends podcast and host of his bi-weekly video program, Corey's Local Market Minute, which you can find on YouTube. Prior to joining Borrell in 2014, he was the Director of Market Intelligence at Gannett, and he holds a degree from Ohio University and lives with his wife in Williamsburg, Virginia. So for today's conversation, Corey's unique expertise is going to help us unpack some key findings from Borrell's most recent local advertiser study. So with that, Corey, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Allison. Thanks, everybody, for having me. And you did a great job introducing Borrell. So my first slide is kind of useless here. There we go. If you don't know who Borrell is, we are a research company, and we do that. Our gig is local advertising, understanding what's going on in local advertising, where the money's flowing, to what media. We're kind of the bridge between a local advertiser, or you'll hear me use the term SMB. Those are the same thing during this presentation, and media companies. That's what we do, and we try and translate between the two. So I'm really excited to. I know the room is full of both media people and actual local advertisers. So we've got a lot to get through. What you're going to do if you are a local advertiser, if you're a local business, what I'm going to be showing you is some results from our local advertiser survey. You're going to probably agree with some stuff and disagree with other stuff. It's fine. That makes you unique. But let's get into it. Let me show you what we're going to cover. We're going to cover SMB development and sentiment, just what's on their mind. Again, you can see if you agree with the people on our panel and in our surveys. We're going to talk a little bit about local advertising. Then we're going to focus on three key areas I want to bring up and kind of put out in front of everybody. And that's video, content marketing, and big teaser here, the #1 marketing desire of SMBs. All right, so let's get to it. Like I said, you can have this. We can share these slides, but there's a lot here, so we're going to go pretty fast. So buckle in. Okay, first we're going to talk about SMB development sentiment, and where did we get all of this information that you're about to see? It's from a couple of sources. It's from our own local advertiser survey, that big survey Allison was talking about. We also run an SMB panel, which I'll explain a little bit more, and that's a few hundred local advertisers who answer questions every month, and we share the results just with them. It makes us smarter, makes them smarter. Our 2002 content marketing study, some information from our Compass database. That's where we keep all of the local money information. That's over there in that database. And then there's some other third-party sources you're going to see in this presentation. and that's coming up first. So let's set the groundwork. So let's take a step back and see what's been happening over the last couple of years when it comes to just general retail sales. We'll start there. What do I mean? Here I want to show you what's going on. This is US. This is just retail sales. I've taken out auto. We'll get to auto later. But what you're seeing here, that blue dotted line, that's 2022. That red line with that dip in April, that's the infamous 2020. That's COVID. But look what has happened with that red, green, and dotted blue line. Monthly retail sales have increased year over year. And this is from the US Census Bureau. By the way, they collect this information. So that's interesting, but what's more interesting is it's different for every category out there. For instance, I got a couple here I want to show you. Here's pharmacies. Pharmacies looks a little different. Look at that big spike. They actually went up in March of 2020 when a lot of retailers went down. You know, think about what was happening in March of 2020. Makes sense that pharmacies kind of saw a bump. And here they are having their best year yet so far in 2022. The story continues with, here's the electronic stores. Big dip in 2020, climbed back up in that red. That green is 2021, so somewhere back on trend and just a little below trend in 2022. All right, so all this to say, every different kind of business out there is having a different history. We all understand that. We all get where that's going. But something happened in the last couple of years that was kind of a slow boil. A lot of people didn't see it happen until you looked at something. So we get information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and from Dun & Bradstreet about the number of businesses out there in the world, right? That's how we begin our database work. And what we did one day is ignored 2020 and 2021 and just looked at the amount of businesses in 2019 against the amount of businesses in 2022. Guess what happened? This. The number of businesses grew exponentially in that small under 10 employee cohort. So very small businesses grew massively in the last 2 years, as if 2020, 21 didn't exist. You're just comparing 2019 to 2022. And we thought it was so big that surely there's something goofy with the data. Well, you can do your own digging and find out articles after articles, especially in 21, talking about the increase of very small businesses. There's another clue too that's really interesting, is there's been a huge uptick in business applications. What you're seeing here is just that the number of business applications, again, from the Census Bureau Business Formation group, what you're seeing between the orange and the blue, the orange are what they call high propensity business applications. In other words, they feel these applications are for businesses that are very, very small or maybe won't grow into something very big, right? So you can kind of chalk that up and say, well, Corey, see, all the growth was in these really small businesses that, you know, might be a 1 or 2 person operation. Haha. But if you strip that orange away, so you're getting rid of those and you're just looking at high propensity businesses, these guys looks like this. So again, these are applications, right? So it shows what's going on, and you see it's been steady for years. After the 2008 crash, it's been steady, but then once 2020 hit, boom, it increased, and it has been increased. It's coming down a little bit, but so much a larger volume than it's ever been there before. Okay, so setting this up, so there's a increased competition for any local advertisers, because remember, a lot of these are small places. Could be it's everything you're thinking of. It's everything from very small businesses to consultancies to all of that. Doesn't matter, there are more businesses out there. So I want to talk a little bit about the past, present, and future, and how local advertisers and SMBs are looking at things. And if you're one of them, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Think of how you would answer these. All right. These are from our local our SMB panel, which you can be a part of. And we ask every quarter, we ask the same series of questions so we can kind of trend it. We can kind of gauge some sentiment, like, we ask, over the past 6 months, do you think it's gotten easier or harder to sustain a small business in the US? Think about your answer. Back in August of 2018, how to read this chart, 24% said, oh, it's easier now than it was in the past 6 months. 34% said it was harder. Well, let's look at how that's changed over time. You can see in 2020, though, that big, a lot of red, where it says it's gotten harder, all the circles are indicating are November, so you can easily look at November over November. So the past 6 months have been a little harder than last year, but it's no November of 2020, where 83% of local advertisers said, yeah, it's harder than it was 6 months ago. Okay, that's past. Present. How would you characterize the current economic situation in the US for sustaining a small business? Is it poor, fair, good, or excellent? That's what they said in 2017. Here's going forward. Again, your eye gets drawn to that big red there in March of 2020, 73% saying it's poor. Now, current economic conditions are a little better than they were in May, but not quite as rosy as they were last year when you ask a local business. Then what about the future if you're looking forward 6 months? So we ask, during the next 6 months, the economic conditions for sustaining a small business in the US will what? Get worse, be about the same, or get better? Lock in your answers. Here's what everybody else said. So again, those are the Novembers. And what we're seeing is the outlook has maintained pretty much the same since the last time we asked in August. About 13% said it's getting better, 40% say it's getting worse, the rest of them about the same. So, because we're all here about talking about marketing and advertising, we did ask, what are you going to do over the next 6 months with advertising and marketing spend? So think about what you're going to do. Is it going to be less, about the same, or more than the past 6 months? Here's what everybody said. So it's the first time since May of this year that there's a larger percentage that will increase than decrease. 19% said they will increase, 17% said they would decrease, 62% say, I'll keep it pretty much the same as it's been. So some of you put in questions before this webinar that you want to answer. So we're going to have question time. This is one of the questions that got submitted. Are there categories that thrive during times of economic uncertainty? And what is the number one thing those companies do differently? So what I wanted to show you is this is another look at retail sales. Remember the chart we saw before? This is going back further and looking at annual retail sales year over year. So we went back and looked at the last time we had a big recession, back 2008, 2009. You can see what happened with retail sales. And you can see here was the low point in 2009. And it got back to over 2008 levels in 2 years. So that's the average. Okay, so we get back on track 2 years later. Great, that's the trend. When you look at individual businesses, they all have different trends. Now, one of them, here's clothing stores, for example. Again, 2009 was low, and they're just right on average, just like old retail sales. They got back on track 2 years later, but that didn't hold for absolutely every category. For instance, jewelry stores. They tanked in 2009, stayed low in 2010, didn't get back up on track until 2014. And by track, I mean over what the 2008 number was before the big recession hit. Now, I've cheated a little bit because in one of our videos we produced, we actually talked about this recession, the recession-proof or recession-resistant businesses. This is a screenshot. This is where I cheated rather than recreate a slide. That URL is the actual URL for this video. You can also, I'll show you where else you can get it. But these were, when you look at that analysis we just did, these were the ones that took longer to come back from a recession. These guys, department stores, office supply, bookstores. Now, some of these have been just having a natural slowdown, like office supply stores, just every year, whether it's recession or not, have been going down in retail sales. So there's a little bit of an excuse there. But how about the ones that bounced back fastest or didn't even have a dip at all? They look like these guys. These are the ones that the recession back then, 2008, I know it's a different kind of recession, didn't get affected as much. And I think it's hilarious that there's some commonalities here with drinking places and grocery stores and liquor stores and restaurants. When we have a recession, we still like to eat and drink, apparently. At least that's what the data says. So that's a little bit about what historically looks like it does fairly well during a recession and what doesn't. What keeps businesses going, and we're going to talk a little bit about this later in the is how they approach marketing. That's what makes some of these successful businesses different inside of each category. And how they approach marketing is thoughtful, is not give me this piece of advertising, this piece of advertising. There's an actual marketing plan, but I'll show you that here in just a little bit. So now we're going to get to local advertising. I'm making a time check. Oh boy, I got to speed it up. Okay, we did a survey. This is who answered our large advertiser survey. This is what they look like, just so we're all clear about who is answering this. On average, they're about 51 years old. The most important thing down here in the right-hand column, or in the right-hand bottom right-hand side, 26% said they were master marketers. So they didn't say they were. We asked, how long have you been marketing? How many hours a week have you marketed? And if they had over 10,000 hours of experience, we called them master marketers. So that's who's answering this. This is what, in dark blue, is what they plan to use in 2023, and in lighter blue is what they were using in 2022. So you can see there's a broader usage of everything, at least that's what they claim. And that doesn't mean that everybody is going to do every one of these things. It's saying that 62% of our respondents said they will be buying social media advertising. That's what that means. The only advertising type that went down was down there at the bottom, printed directories. 12% 22 said they used it, and 11% say they're going to use it in 23. Here's a closer look at those 2023 plans. What you're seeing here are the percentages in black of the people who say they're going to increase or start buying this particular media, and the red saying they're planning to trim or eliminate. What you'll see here is the top portion of this is all digital and events. Events are very, very important for local advertisers and sometimes get glossed over by local media companies. But we hear time and time again from local advertisers that events, places that I can not literally, but I can touch my customer, is very, very important to me. You'll see that the ones that are suffering down below are print things, magazines, newspapers, other printed publications have more people saying they're going to cut or trim than they will increase. So this is an effectiveness chart. Now what you're seeing here is from right to left, the percentage of people rating a particular media, they have to use it, very or extremely effective. Going up is the percentage buying. So this, I think you can see my mouse, social media means about, this social media dot means about 58% of these respondents say they're using social media, and almost half of them say it's very effective. All right, so up in this top right hand are the things that a lot of local businesses are using and say are very, very effective. Way down here, yellow pages, not a lot using, not very effective. All right, I want you to keep your eye on these guys. Of course, the top right hand, but the other ones down here, broadcast TV, streaming video, and streaming audio. Because we asked this same question, remember these are of local advertisers. Now we ask that same question of local ad agencies where the media or marketing savviness or savvy is a little bit higher. Look what happens to these guys. Look how much is crammed up in that right-hand corner about being very effective and used a lot. And you'll see all those ones that were down below for local advertisers, cable TV, streaming OTT, broadcast TV, streaming audio, all get pushed up into the very effective. Interesting, right? Okay, let's move on. I told you I'm going fast. Focus on video and why we think this is important. And when we say video, we're talking, and we say OTT, we're using the Media Rating Council's definition of OTT, which is basically any video that's brought to you through the internet, digitally. So it's not just CTV. Some people associate OTT with just connected TV. No, it's all this stuff. So that's a very big umbrella. So when we asked where will you get that budget from, the local advertisers who are spending on OTT, where did that budget come from? This is what they said, and you see a lot of trimmed on the left-hand side. I trimmed this, I trimmed that. In fact, if you put them all together, 55% said they trimmed from somewhere to pay for OTT. But why we think it's important is a full 34% of our respondents said, no, this is new money. I haven't trimmed anything. I've actually added money to my marketing budget because it's that important. Ooh, okay. So we specifically asked about, this was earlier in the year, your plans for 2022 spending, is it going to go up or down? Here's another reason we think it's important. 36% said they plan to increase over last year, 42% about the same, only 10% decided they're going to decrease. And finally, we asked, from who do you buy OTT advertising? And what you see here in blue are local entities, whether it's a local TV, a cable, digital radio, newspaper rep, or in orange, a national provider. And so the local businesses we found that were buying OTT were buying it from a local media company. In fact, 65% said local media company, 35% said national. Now, what's interesting, and I don't have a chart for this, when we asked the people who hadn't bought OTT but were considering it, this chart was darn near flipped. When we asked, who do you think you're going to buy it from? It was all national and not very much local. So that's why we say video is local's domain. A lot of the local advertisers we talked to could use help here and would accept it. Okay, content marketing. See, trying to go fast. This is another reason we think this is important. In 2021, we asked local advertisers, hey, compared to 2020, is content marketing more or less of a priority for you? 38% said more. And we thought, okay, well, maybe that's just residual from COVID, from the lockdown and people wanting to get their story out. Surely in 2022, that priority would change, right? Well, guess what? We asked again a year later, and even more, 42% said, no, it's more of a priority this year. That storytelling factor that a lot of local advertisers got that or had to put themselves through during 2020, talking to their own consumers about what's going on in their business, became very, very important. In fact, we asked, why did it become more important? Here's what they said. 34% said it better tells a story, connects my consumer in a meaningful way. 25% spurred on by COVID, which we thought that would be number one. And 24% said because it's to stay competitive or grow my business. So a lot of local businesses are linking storytelling to actually growing businesses, which was a big leap for a lot of local advertisers. These are just quotes from local businesses. You guys can read this later when you get the full deck, but you see the passion for content marketing. We asked who comes up with the ideas. It's usually somebody internal to the local advertiser, to the local business. So they're not counting on an agent. A lot of them are not counting on an agency or a local media company. They're trying to do it themselves. Where this becomes a challenge and where they could use help, I would think, is we asked, what concerns do you have about content marketing? Number one answer, reaching the right audience. They're not worried about creating the content. They're worried about getting it in front of the right people. And so it's hard to get in front of the right people if your content marketing is only being distributed on your own website, your own social media pages, that kind of a thing. So that's another place where it's a beautiful marriage of a local media company and a local business who can get the story out to other people. Okay, last one, the number one marketing desire of SMBs. And this is more preaching to any media companies or agencies out there. We asked local businesses, what causes you to buy from a local media company? And I won't make you go through all this. There you go. What you see here is a desire for marketing help. That's different than advertising. Nowhere on these top four are there, boy, do I wish you guys had a bunch of advertising vehicles I could use. The local businesses we talked to wanted marketing help. They wanted transparent plans. They wanted partnerships. They wanted the reps to have a high level of marketing expertise. In fact, the emphasis on marketing is seen when you look at jobs out there. Back to 2022, there were more advertising jobs than there were marketing jobs. As we moved forward, guess what happened? Now, there are more marketing jobs than there are straight up advertising jobs. Interesting, right? Because that's become more, I have to put all this stuff together to make a complete plan. The marketing skills that are in demand by local advertisers, we asked if you're going to go hire for marketing, what would you look for? And I purposely covered up number one because I think it's important. Here are the things that in blue, they said, yeah, I need my marketing skills to have this. But number one skill, can you guess what it is? According to local advertisers, social media marketing and management. That came in number one, and 19% said that's the most important skill to have. So keep that in mind when you are talking to a local advertisers, what's in their head about what they need help with in marketing. Finally, or getting very close to finally, we asked, how did you place your ad methods? This was back in, we asked this in 21, but I kept it in here because I think it hasn't really changed all that much. We want to know how respondents are handling interactions when they have an ad buy, and you see that 76% said, I bought it via email with a salesperson, 55% in person. We said, okay, that's cool. How do you want to buy it? This is what they said. This is the preferred method. 43, email with a salesperson, still number one, but 30% in person, 9% over the phone, which means there's a lot of desire for interaction with a person as long as that person can provide a clear marketing plan, not just a bunch of little advertising vehicles, but an actual through plan of what to do. That seems to be the most desirable from who we've talked to. See, I got there. And now the conclusion. So there's been an explosion of businesses since 2019, which means there's increased competition out there. Also, 2020 taught local businesses lessons on marketing because of customer retention. It became all about customer retention in 2020, when I have to tell my customers what my business is doing, how we're staying healthy, how we're staying safe. That churned into storytelling and churned into content marketing. They taught themselves content marketing and accelerated digital expenditures because that's what they could control. Getting their message out. I can control my website. I can control my social media feed. I can do these things. I can create content and put it out there. They're interested in video. We get it all the time, and they're going to pursue it one way or another. And it's a local media's game. They'll take the help, but it's coming. The desire, I mean. Advertising has developed to include storytelling, and local businesses want and need, at least they tell us, they need marketing help. They want this more than, and I took out the slide that had the entire list of things that local advertisers wanted from their local media, and a bunch of products was down towards the bottom. I showed you the first four, and it was all about help me with my overall marketing. Okay, making sure, okay. So here are a couple more ways to connect with us. We've got a podcast, we've got a video. You can go to BorrellAssociates.com, find that. That QR code, if you happen to be a local advertiser, you want to be part of this panel. And what you'll do is answer about 10 questions every month and then get sent the results so you can see what other people say. If you want to be part of it, hit that QR code and sign up, and ta-da, you're in. And question time, last question, if I have time. Somebody wanted to look at the in the outlook for business in the automotive industry. Do you have any insights here? What I can share with you are those same charts we saw before. This is new car dealers. These are retail sales for new car dealers. Look at 2021, that's in green, dotted blue line, 2022. You tell me what's happening. Used car dealers, same thing. The interesting thing, the new car dealers had more of a drastic up and down than used car dealers did. There, I got to the last slide.
That was very impressive, Corey. Thank you so much. Well, guys, we had a couple questions come through the chat. So Corey, if you've got a couple minutes, we may run a little bit over and try to answer at least one or two of these before we log off. If you guys are not able to hang with us for a few more minutes, we will send you this recording so you can hear Corey's answers to the questions that have come in. But Corey, you ended with a slide that we got one of the questions about. So the retail sales slide.
Okay.
One of the questions we had while you were presenting this was, are these sales numbers adjusted for inflation? to compare more of an apples to apples look.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point, and that's one of the reasons here. I'm just going to go back to so we all visualize. I know there's new car dealers, but just pretend it's retail sales. No, that's part of the spike, but it's not all of it. It's not the entire thing. It's also consumer behavior has changed, and what's really fascinating, by the way, this information is publicly available. You can go find it and look for yourself, but you'll see by category it's a little different, and consumer behavior change in what we were buying. You'll see what's impressive was home improvement. The home improvement, man, see that red line that went down in new car sales? It was flipped for home improvement at that time because everybody decided, oh man, I'm going to be on Zoom calls. I need to work on my house, and you see it go up. So you're right, some of it is inflation. It's not all inflation.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, I know we're running out of time, so that's all the time we have for today. If you do have a question, go ahead and put it into the question box. We'll follow up with Corey, and maybe we'll we'll have him write a blog article for us, or we'll get the answers and get them to you guys. So feel free to go ahead and put it into the question box, and we'll make sure we get back to it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I get chatty, and they don't let me out much.
It was so much good information. And as a reminder, a recording of this and all of the great content that Corey shared, every graph that you've seen today will be emailed to you. And we'll be back again next year with another guest expert and more great content. So we hope you'll be able to join us again then. In the meantime, make sure you check out some of the resources that Corey shared, or check out the Cox Media website for articles, ebooks, and recordings of some of our previous Ask the Experts webinars. And as always, for any additional questions regarding today's content, you can always contact your Cox Media consultant. If you're not a current customer, you can visit coxmedia.com to connect with one of our marketing experts. So thank you all again. Thank you, Corey. And we look forward to seeing you all again in the new year. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.